So when I say justice,
or else.
So when I say justice,
Or else.
one more time because God works in threes. So when I say justice,
Or else.
okay, I would like to present to you now Sabian Nugent, the chair of 6812's Political Action Committee.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. Through the lens of uncertainty and strife comes simplicity in choosing doubt. Hopelessness may become pragmatic in the depths of our minds, in the pits of our laurels, and in the behaviors of our approach towards righteousness. We may feel as though what we are doing is not enough, and that the powers rising against us is immeasurable and immutable. That we cannot pose a threat to the very things that plague our society as a whole. These notions are in fact prevalent amongst us. But the race has not been given to the swift, nor was it given to the strong. For God has a special place for the ones who endure until the end. The ones who possess the faith that move mountains and caress the bonds of nature through the storms, through the drought, through the winds of destruction and the toils of our enemies. We must remain persistent. We must continue to address the pseudo-pragmatism that constitutes Islamophobia, theoretical genocide, merciless legislation posed by our leaders, and the many grave atrocities that strain our great American ideals. We are gathered here today, standing upon the distinct and peculiar platform of justice. We have been given a jigsaw puzzle in a box that presents a vibrant outlook of what our labor will bring forth. We look at this finished puzzle display as the picture of an ideal society in which we can all live free and well. The puzzle pieces in which we are using to make this become a reality are direct remnants of hope. We know what the bigger picture looks like. We know the change we seek, and we know what the puzzle of hope requires. As the players of this puzzle, we must maintain our patience, sustain our virtue, and build from each victory while learning from every defeat. Be not weary in well-doing, but know that in time, our good will come to pass. Our hopes and dreams will come into fruition. And we will look back and thank ourselves for not losing our sense of self as Americans and human beings. There is a large incentive for trying and staying the course. The incentive is peace, peace of mind, a tolerant tomorrow, a motivated today, undisputable love for thy fellow man, job growth, equal opportunity, superior education for our youth, and awe-inspiring lessons on the pursuit of happiness. Today, I have the distinct honor and privilege in introducing to all of you one of the many pieces to this grand puzzle in which I speak of. This great puzzle of hope and evolvement. This young leader who I am introducing comes all the way from Houston, Texas, as a candidate for the Texas House of Representatives in the 139th District. Mr. Ford is 22 years old with an extensive track record of activism and excellence. As a matter of fact, if I told you everything he did, I would be way over my time. So, without any further ado, I introduce to you a prolific vessel in this puzzle, and your future state representative, Jerry Ford.
Nacogdoches, how y'all doing today? Let me tell you, I'm excited. It's a privilege and an honor to be here. We made the long trip from Houston this morning. I'm excited because I have a special invitation for one of the top young leaders in the state, Mr. John L. Davis. You guys make some noise for him. John, you're doing some great work here in Nacogdoches. You gotta keep it up. You know, I met a lot of individuals this morning. I talked to a lot of guys from the illustrious, the prestigious Stephen F. Austin University. If you are a student or alumni from Stephen F. Austin, make some noise right now. You love your university. Savion, thank you so much for that introduction. You know, you are a leader. You have a great future ahead of you. You know, I had the opportunity, I think last night, to talk to Mr. Stephen Wright. I think he's running for District 11 here in Nacogdoches. Look, guys, don't believe the myth when people say Texas is too deep red and it's too conservative. You know, we gotta turn Texas blue. We're gonna start right here in Nacogdoches. We're gonna have to vote and get out. Let me tell you, if some of you guys know my story, probably about 6-7 months ago, I was a college baseball player. I was leading the entire nation NCAA baseball in Division I in stolen bases. I thought I had my whole life planned out ahead of me. I was going to the major leagues, but you know, God works in mysterious ways. You know, I say he's my pilot and I'm the co-pilot and I'm just riding along. So I had an injury my last month before the NCAA tournament, and it changed my life. I had the opportunity to get back engaged into the political process. I'm a radio host. I write for a newspaper. And a few months ago, a couple of people approached me about running for elected office. You know, so I said, well, are you talking about the Student Government Association at TSU? You know, I did that before. Give me some time. Let me think about it. They said, no, son, something bigger than that. So I said, well, you talk about me chairing maybe like a leadership committee for the youth or something like that. That's a great idea. I would like to talk about some of my ideas I have about a new 21st century education, one that's not just about supporting existing schools, but about splurging innovation. He said, well, no, son, I'm talking about something a little bigger than that. I said, well, you're not talking about the Houston City Council. It's a little too late for that, and I don't think I got the money for that, and that's a dirty game there. I don't think I want to do that right now. Maybe in 10 years, maybe when I go to law school. He said, son, even bigger than that. I said, okay, what are you talking about? He said, what about Texas State Representative? I said, come again? Did I hear you right? He said, Texas State Representative. And I thought about it, and I did some research. And when you look at what's going on in this state, it really will take a new generation with a new voice and a new vision to lead the way to take Texas into a new progressive future. You know, what's going on in Texas, we know we don't have time to wait. When you look at 26% of the children here in the state live in poverty, 24% of residents here are uninsured. We have 168,000 people incarcerated. And look, that's 725. We got to raise that minimum wage. That's something we have to do. And it's going to take a new generation. It's going to take a new energy to move progressive values in this state. You know, and I said we need to go down to Austin. The first thing I'm going to do when I get to Austin, we're going to find every Republican politician with these Ayn Rand agendas, and we're going to replace Ayn Rand with the Bible, and we're going to talk about how you have to support the poor, you got to look out for your common man, and we're going to make a change up in Austin. So I decided to run, and you know, the first thing you do as a first-time candidate, you basically just go anywhere and everywhere and just speak to whoever will listen to you. So I would go to different barber shops, beauty shops, bake sales. I would find two brothers on the corner and start passing out flyers. They thought I was crazy. But you know, that's what you do. So, you know, something happened a couple of weeks ago that really, something I'll never forget. You know, so I decided I was going to run. I made the decision 2 weeks ago. Yesterday afternoon, I finally filed the necessary paperwork to run for state representative in District 139, which is one of the largest districts in the entire state. But you know, you don't make that decision when you file. You make it a couple of weeks before. So I had flyers. I was in class, and I just received a brand new yard sign. We finally got my yard signs in the middle. I have my name across it, Jerry Ford Jr. I think it's right here. So I was excited. So I said, okay, I got a 9 o'clock class. After class, I was excited. I said, you know, I'm gonna block walk all by myself. I'm gonna go knock on 1,000 doors. I said 1,000 doors. And then I realized really soon that even as an athlete, a 22-year-old, that's not conducive to the health of your knees or anything. But I was out there, all day knocking on doors, and things was going great. I would walk around, I would talk to residents, I would introduce myself, and I would ask for their support, tell them my plans about Medicaid and some issues. And they would say they like me. Some would say, okay, I'm Republican, but I like what you're doing. But a couple of hours, I think I was 3 hours into the day, and I think it was a time around where the high school kids was getting back home, and the craziest thing happened. I started to walk up to a house in North Houston. If you guys are not familiar with Houston, Houston is like 4 different cities in one city. So we're talking about North Houston, and in Houston we call it the North Side. North Side, Texas, NAWF. So we're up there. So I'm walking up to the door, and I just hear these kids acting a fool, just causing havoc. And I remember right away my pastor from Fallbrook Church, Michael Pender, the Sunday before, he was saying, it takes a village to raise a kid, but you don't raise that kid right, those same bad little kids can burn down that village. And I was like, these are the kids right here he was talking about. But I would say, let me go up here and let me talk to the person, maybe the parent, has some sense. So I walked up to the door, and right away, this lady, I was 5 feet from the door, she swung the door open, just angry, and say, look here, young man, I know you're young. I know what you're doing. Somebody out here paying for you to tell us old folks to vote. But let me tell you something. And she saw my sign, because I was walking around with my sign like this the whole day. I was so excited. She said, let me tell you something about Jerry Ford Jr. You don't know Jerry Ford Jr. like I know Jerry Ford Jr. I said, okay, this is going to be pretty interesting. She was like, Jerry Ford Jr. has been lying to me for about 30 years, since 1985. He's been sending people up here to my house telling me to vote, and he hasn't done anything for me. I said, okay. And she said, young man, I want you to go and deliver Jerry Ford Jr. a message. Can you do that? I said, yes, ma'am, I can. I would send him a message. She said, tell Jerry Ford Jr. stop sending these little kids up here wearing these suits to my house, telling me to vote. I felt kind of disrespected, but I respect my elders. So she got her phone out. She said, I'm about to call Jerry Ford Jr. myself. I'm gonna call him myself. Let me find his office number. What is your name, young man? So I can tell Jerry Ford Jr. to not send you up here, or I'm talking to you right now. I said, well, I'm Jerry Ford Jr. and I'm running for Texas State Representative. And the craziest thing happened right away. Some of you remember, like 10 years ago, I think we was in middle school, people my age. But the old computers, when you try to watch a video or download something, it would do this thing called like buffering, because like frozen. She was completely frozen, like in buffering mode or something. I didn't know how to react, so I said, you know what? This might be my chance to leave. So I started walking it back slowly, and I said, well, maybe I had all these flyers with me. I said, well, maybe if I leave probably like 20 flyers on the ground, maybe she would pick them up, and she might look at it, and she might like what she see. So I started walking backwards, and I just threw about like 20 signs on her yard and walked off. But it was an interesting conversation that we had. But the rest of the day, I continued to block walk, and I kept on running into different residents. And they kept on asking me, they said, son, I know you. You come from a good family. My father, he's the assistant fire chief in Houston, Texas. That's Jerry Ford right there. And they say, thank you. They say, you come from a good family. I hear you on the radio on the weekends, and I read your paper, and you got a good a future ahead of you. But why in the world would you want to get into something as dirty and nasty as politics? Why now? You got your whole entire life ahead of you. And I thought back. I said, that was an interesting question, because the question is understandable, because at some level, all of us sometimes we feel cynical about the political process. For many of us, especially here in Texas, the Texas Republicans has made it where politics seem to be more of a business and not a mission, that what it should be. It seemed that power continue the Trump principle when it should be the other way around, and we continue to see our Texas Republicans who are usually long on rhetoric, but then short on their follow through. So we get discouraged, and we're cynical, and it is natural to be cynical, but I always believe that there was this other style of politics, this other side of politics that many of us who are Christian we should understand. It's based on one simple premise. It's that premise that we are all in this together. No matter your race, no matter where you're from, if you're from overseas, you're from Syria, we all have a stake in one another. We all have a responsibility for the poor, for the middle class, for our communities of color, to stand up for women's rights. We all have that responsibility, and that responsibility is guided into something higher, with a higher spirit. And that's why we're here as Democrats and we're here as progressives. But what frustrates me is that style of politics, you can't find that in the Republican Party. You can't find that in Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott right now is suing. He is going that far to sue to keep a few Syrians outside of the state. That is terrible. That is terrible. And Texas Republicans seem to blame people who are desperate people in desperate situations and blame them as the problem. No, Greg Abbott, they are not the problem. The Syrian people are victims of war. The Syrian people are victims of environment degradation. They are victims of poverty, and they are victims of human rights. As Texans, we have a responsibility to make sure that these people are properly cared for and properly supported as they come over to the United States. And look, it's time for an uprising here in the state of Texas in favor of decency and in favor of human rights, and we must take a stand. Now, let me tell you, it's time for a progressive political revolution right here in Texas, and it's going to take this generation. It's going to take a new voice. It's going to take a new vision for us to answer the call to move this state forward. And as I finish up, right now in this state, we have the ability to articulate a vision that is conducive to business growth, that is conducive to providing most individuals with affordable health care, conducive to funding our schools. And education, guys, is a moral imperative, is an economic necessity that every single Texan should have the right to. You shouldn't have to be in a certain class or a certain race to afford this opportunity of a world-class education. Now, when we don't fund our schools, a few sessions ago, we cut $5.4 billion from education. And when that happens, Texas is sending our kids, our young people, a loud message. It's saying that, it's okay to drop out of school. You drop out of school, somehow you're going to fall into a great job. And we know that is not true. Texas Republicans have sent our young Texans, our black communities, our brown communities, our working and middle class communities, and even our senior Texan communities a loud message. And that message is saying that you guys are on your own, and that we will put big businesses and rich people first before we put the common man, and we have to change that. It is that message of long-winded Republicans with that long rhetoric I talked about earlier, who are continuing to be short on follow-through when they're talking about their Christian faith, but once again, they fall short when it comes to practicing what you preach. Greg Abbott, you cannot use this rhetoric to demean these individuals who are coming from Syria. We must stand and invite Syrians into our nation. Last thing I'm gonna say, the position I'm running for is to replace Sylvester Turner, who's running for Houston mayor. He spent 26 years in that seat, and he's running for mayor, and he always say, if you can dream it, you can do it. But I have a different kind of slogan. I say, if you can imagine it, you have the opportunity. Because one thing I learned at my university, at Texas Southern University, which is the home of the likes of Barbara Jordan and Mickey Leland, those are two individuals who went to my university. And what they teach us at Texas Southern University, they teach us that your imagination is your biggest tool. Now, some people like to denounce your imagination as something just crazy, and they give you like a degree plan and tell you this is what you do, this is how you follow your life. But at Texas Southern University and around this state, what we're preaching is listen to your imagination, because your imagination, if you stay principled, you keep the faith and keep your work ethic, it's a vision from God that's saying this is the opportunity that you have if you stay focused, but you have an opportunity of a lifetime, but you got to take advantage of it in this lifetime of the opportunity. So that's what we're trying to do. I think this is a perfect opportunity for Texas to turn this state blue and to promote progressive issues. I want to thank you for letting me come out here and speak today. Thank you, John. Thank you, Nacogdoches. God bless you. I'm gonna need your help. Ask for support. Thank you so much.